Charles Xavier has given the mutant race a brand new nation to call their own in Krakoa, but how long will it last for? Well, let's hop into the pages of Powers of X issue number 1 and find out. Alrighty then, so remember how back during my review of House of X, I complimented it for being such a reader-friendly book despite the fact that Hickman was playing with such, big idea science fiction? Well, turns out I ain't seen nothing yet, because what's going on in this single issue makes Blade Runner look like Spaceballs. You see, we start playing with a 4-tiered timeline. We got X Year 1, which is basically the founding of the Xavier School and the X-Men team back in the 60s. X Year 10, which is pretty much everything that's happening currently with Krakoa, as well as 2 brand new timelines we're going to explore here in this issue, X Year 100 and X Year 1000. As it stands right now, though, we join the comic in X Year 1. Charles Xavier and the rest of the X-Men are having a kinda carnival fun fair. It's there he seemingly meets Moira McTaggart for the very first time. I say seemingly because Xavier has no knowledge of Moira at this time, but she seems to know a lot about him, like way more than she should, even making coded references about the future via some tarot cards. I should also probably note that Xavier's walking around right now without a wheelchair. I don't know if that means anything or gives us an idea about where X Year 1 takes place in time, but there it is. Now from there we go to the present, which we now know is X Year 10. Mystique has returned from her mission, and yes, it is ultimately revealed that her attempted robbery of Damage Control was a mission she was given by Magneto. Even though this seems like the kind of morally bankrupt actions that Xavier wouldn't normally get involved in, what is particularly interesting about this exchange here is that Raven Darkholme actually really doesn't seem to like Krakoa, and Mystique is only really doing this right now for her own materialistic reasons, but Xavier lets it be known that, dream nations don't come cheap and all mutants will be expected to put in work in these streets soon enough. Now from there we make a huge time jump to the year X100, where once again mutant society is on the brink of extinction, being hunted by brand new cutting-edge sentinels. A particularly important young mutant with a black brain whose mind cannot be read is cornered only to try and be rescued by a couple brand new X-Men we've never seen before. These are called Chimera class mutants, and they were made by Mr. Sinister in the pits of Mars. Basically, in the future, the mutants get so desperate they decide to do the fusion dance with some of their best DNA to create, well, these guys right here. They're not all amazing fighters, though, some like Cardinal, who clearly got a fair amount of Nightcrawler in his DNA, have a defect that make them come out as pacifists. It wasn't just the X-Men who were tinkering around with genetics either. These brand new machine men were doing the same. In fact, these black-brained mutants are actually part of one of their Hound programs. The fact that no one can read their brains makes them really useful as double agents and infiltrators, so you can understand why they want to get them back. But what exactly is the deal with these machine men? Well, you'll recall how back in House of X #1 we were introduced to a group called Orcas. Well, they had gone into space because they were a bunch of human supremacists and feared mutants overtaking them. We also saw they had highly advanced robots like the ones in Aliens, and wouldn't you know it, the humans hated the mutants so much they happily sold out their humanity to the robots to become human-machine hybrids. That also seemed to involve rebuilding Nimrod, who's got a shiny, sleek new design, as well as a fun sense of humor. He feels really bad for the Hounds that were created. After all, Nimrod is all about optimization and running perfectly, and he thinks that the Hounds were just poorly built designs, they were rushed out of beta, and he just feels bad. The black-brained Hound refuses to talk during interrogation, but Nimrod has a better idea. He'll simply just break down the body over a long period of time until she becomes nothing but data. Basically, he puts her in the dip from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which might be a fate worse than death. Now, as I mentioned before, this war with the machine men means that mutant society is on its last legs once again. In fact, most of them aren't even living on Earth anymore. They're living in colonies set up for them by the Shi'ar, which they only got in exchange for agreeing to work with the Shi'ar military. Who brokered this deal? Well, the few mutant leaders who are still left alive. Magneto, Wolverine, naturally, they're always cheating death, as well as a tree guy who might be the final embodiment of Krakoa, or might just be a fully evolved version of Xavier, who knows. Now, this all sounds absolutely insane, right? But get ready for what's going on in the year X1000. 2000. An alien bookkeeper is pretty much going through all of Nimrod's records on mutant kind, as it seems that aliens have actually tried to reseed the mutant race. Basically start them over from scratch as proto-cavemen in some far-off planet in some far-off future as the comic ends. And so that was Powers of X issue number 1, everybody, and much like House of X, Hickman delivers probably one of the most jam-packed and substantial single issues I've read in a very long time. There are some absolutely massive ideas at play here, and I'm sure it's stuff we're not going to realize the full breadth of until it's over, but man is there a lot to chew on here. I think perhaps my favorite thing Hickman hits upon here is the idea that even though the mutants are doing really well with their brand new Krakoa nation, it's never meant to last because the X-Men are seemingly always in this state of rise and fall. Due in no small part to the fact that some people out there are just so amazingly, unbelievably hateful of the mutants that they will literally cut off their nose, give away their humanity just to fight them a little longer. Overall, I'd give this one another solid 9 out of 10. People are actually excited about X-Men for the first time in what feels like a long time, and it's oh so certainly deserved.
Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Joel again, and I want to thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, why not take a closer look at some of these other videos I have available from the channel. Then you can follow me on Twitter and Facebook at Cape Joel, so you're always up to speed on what I'm doing next. And hey, if you're feeling in a supportive mood, why not check out the link down in the description for my Patreon page. Patrons get exclusive access to videos and content before anyone else, and you can do so for as little as $1 a month. That would be much appreciated. And until we meet again, everyone, this has been Cape Joel, and I will be making more comic content that smacks of greatness. Bye-bye, everyone.